Hello, Biohacker Nation. Welcome to another podcast of Biohack Humans. We're really appreciative of everybody in leaving your comments and your direct messages. Hopefully we can get to each and every one of you and answer your questions as thoroughly as possible. But if you like what you hear, we ask you, please consider giving us a 5-star review on iTunes and your Android and whatever media device that you are listening to this podcast on. Believe it or not, your reviews go a long way into helping us get out there and for the masses to be able to hear the phenomenal information that you get to hear right now. The Biohack Humans podcast is brought to you by Functionized Integrative Therapeutics. Functionized Integrative Therapeutics at www.functionized, functionized.com. Functionized Integrative Therapeutics is here to help you with the treatment and monitoring and management of concussions, mild traumatic brain injuries, headaches, and a plethora of other neurological disorders. They also help athletes become better athletes and help you become more human than human. FIT is situated in Colts Neck, New Jersey, and saddled with the responsibility of managing the effects of injuries on both people within and outside of their direct area. What does that mean? That means they will find a way to help treat anybody and everybody around the world. So visit them at functionized.com. For all your supplement needs, and I'm not just talking about garbage supplements that are out there. We all know that, especially after talking with the guys at Underground Nutrition last week, we know that supplements are filled with fillers and lackluster ingredients. The only type of supplements that anybody should be taking is what's called pharmaceutical grade. That means they are third-party tested to ensure that the potency and amounts of what is in what you are taking is exactly what it is. So if it's a multi that you're taking, if it's a mineral, if it is amino acids, fish oils, protein, any other special needs herb, you want to make sure that what's in it is actually there. Through Functionized Integrative Therapeutics at functionized.com, you can get all of your supplement needs met. So remember, visit functionized.com. These guys will take care of you and make sure that you have the right supplements for your needs and that they are all pharmaceutical grade. So remember, get fit with FIT. Without further ado, enjoy our show.
They are experts in human performance. They've worked with elite athletes from all over the world to achieve greatness. They're regarded as top influences in health and fitness. Their show gives you everything you need to become fully functionized. This is the Biohack Human Show.
Hello, Biohacker Nation. Once again, this is Dr. Mike, and as always, I'm sitting around with the mad scientist,
Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Mike.
We also have someone else with us today. We got a special guest, Ari the Sky King Fernandez. How are you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm doing great.
Good. So I'll do a quick little introduction. Ari, he is a excellent martial artist. He's gotten dabbled in a bunch of different types of fields. And I'll kind of throw this out to you now. Ari, go ahead and what really got you into martial arts? Where'd you start, and what kind of stuff do you do?
So, as a quick little background, I think what really got me started was a whole bunch of Jackie Chan kung fu movies, as most people get into.
Nice.
Also, a huge proponent of anime. So, like, Dragon Ball Z was not my first, but it was, like, the most impactful on me as a kid. And my father was a kickboxer, so I would always see him practicing. We had an uncle that taught martial arts. My mom had been a boxer, and her father a boxer as well. So I was kind of surrounded by them. And at one point, when I had moved up to Waterbury, I had a girlfriend that was taking Tang Soo Do. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go do Tang Soo Do. I did it for a couple of years, got a black belt in it, and I was like, well, I still don't feel like I can fight. So I'm going to go back to doing what I do. I was really invested into a sport called tricking, which is a combination of, like, dance, gymnastics, and martial arts. It's really fun.
All right, is that anything in the same realms of, like, capoeira? You know, the whole dance fighting idea?
Well, it took a lot of inspiration from capoeira. If you actually look at some of the tournaments, like the Atlanta Open, that's, I think, a really big one now. You can see in the extreme forms portion of the tournament some of the best trickers in the nation. And I don't know, Mike, if you remember Eddie Jong from school, but his father is actually the leader and creator of one of the best tricking groups or martial arts groups for, like, demos and forums, the K-Tigers.
So, Omaree, were you going around as a Super Saiyan as a little kid? I mean, if you got the...
I was trying to, man.
Master Kamehameha and... But no, so, I mean, obviously you've trained a bunch of different things. I mean, we know a lot of people have trained. I mean, you and me specifically have trained with a lot of people, and a lot of them never really competed. What kind of got you to say, screw it, I'm going to jump into the next level and start competition as amateur or pro?
Whew,
Sorry for the loaded question there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a fun one. One, I wanted to be Gohan. That's definitely
great.
Like, not adult Gohan, but like teen Gohan, when like Gohan was actually cool and beating the crap out of Cell. That guy. But really, I think what had gotten me there was watching my father practice, watching my uncle practice, and then seeing the moves that they were practicing being pulled off in competition. It was a huge adrenaline rush. I think the first fight I actually watched was Gokhan Saki versus Freddie Kamayo, which was an excellent K1. Yeah, the Turkish Tyson. He's extremely fast and extremely powerful, and extremely mobile. Like, I wish I had his mobility. I'm close, but not close enough. And I watched that with so much awe that I was just like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is everything that I want to do with my life. If I could do this for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. Getting paid to do this would be perfect. Being able to travel, to see, and compete, and to show my skills, to continue to test myself against different competition, against world-level competition. There's nothing greater.
All right, so I mean, I personally know that you did a lot of competition. You had some decent records in some of your fields. But like, what was the first real competition you did? Like, was this the kickboxing? Was this in the more point-based karate? What got you to really start dabbling into? I mean, obviously, there's different levels of terms of both competition and, you know, honestly, just risk factors as far as your own body and development goes. So, where did you start, and why did you end up converting more to the MMA that I know you're looking at now?
All right, so I love this question. I really do, because it was not like your standard, you know, slope going up, you know, cover trail here for what I was doing. Like, I'm going to start here and then go to this. I started off with karate, like I said, with that girlfriend doing Tang Soo Do, right, as a kid. So I do karate tournaments, and which I still do every once in a while now. I've done like 50 of them, and I've not lost a single one of those competitions.
That's almost worth bragging about, 50-0. Not too bad.
Yeah. Not too bad. But from there, I think, and I think we've talked about this too before, I didn't really like how I was being, you know, trained there, so I took a while off from that. And when I finally found, you know, somebody I thought was a really, really great teacher in a Thunder Martial Arts Academy where I had picked up again, I started training. I was there every single day for 9 hours a day, just working for the first 3 months, and then I ended up having my first fight, and I ended up knocking my opponent out in the second round.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about this one. It was actually kind of an impressive finish, wasn't it? I mean, at least by my standards. Did you knock the guy out of the ring?
Well, he had it coming. It's probably one of my favorite KOs that I've had. Being my very first, I think that was probably like my most actual, like, since that's the first full contact fight I had, that's the best memory I have.
I mean, something like that's definitely gonna make you want to go back for more when you like flying kick someone outside of the ring to finish them up. I mean, that's
Pretty impressive.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Fun, at least, to see.
Yeah, definitely a nice little highlight reel for you at the very least.
It was fun. It was definitely fun. And actually, I think my father just pulled up the clip earlier from his little storage closet of clips, and I'll send you guys the footage over later. But it was really fun.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it again. I've only ever heard about it. So, flying KO kick, I don't know. Gets me still a little tingly about it.
I look forward to seeing that. We'll post it on the show notes then.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make a link for it, so send it to us.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. After that, I had lost, actually, my next 2 fights in kickboxing, which, you know, is a little bittersweet, because I thought, cool, if I can knock out the first person, I can probably knock out anyone, you know, the way a 15, 16-year-old thinks at the time.
Makes sense.
I'm undefeated, yeah.
Yeah, I got this. And,
immortal until proven otherwise. Yeah.
So what had happened in my first loss, and which being my very second fight, was that I grossly overestimated my cardio. And I think that happens to every combat athlete at some point in their career. But I didn't want to run because at the time I'd been suffering from Achilles tendonitis, recovering from an Achilles tendon tear a couple of years before still. And I didn't want to run. I did not want to do any type of road work. I figured, I'll just keep flying around. I'll just keep doing pad work. I'll be fine. Nah. Gassed out. End of the first round, man. Gassed out at the end of the first round, and I was another shot away from finishing him.
Yeah, it's a little early to get too tired. I mean, especially when people start looking for the knockout, especially with kickboxing. I mean, those kicks take a lot of wind out of you. I definitely want to go in a little bit more prepared, but I mean, based on your record, it looks like you obviously learned to compensate or deal with it a lot better.
Yeah. Conditioning comes first for me always. Conditioning and making sure I'm prepared and ready for any situation is literally what comes first to me every single day that I'm in the gym, or even if I'm not. If I'm at home and I have some free time to myself, if I'm going to listen to a book or something like that, I'll go and I'll put in some miles for it.
Well, good. So it looks like you're taking every step to try to improve yourself, which is always what we want to do, is try to get better every time that we can.
That's pretty good time management. So you say that you listen to books while you run?
Yeah, I love ebooks, and I love ebooks. I love podcasts. Anything that I can have to feed my mind, really. I just want to keep learning and growing, man. That's been my path here.
Good stuff. Getting stronger mentally and physically at the same time.
Both.
So, all right. So, I mean, obviously, being both of us experiencing it a little together at some points with the whole fight world, there's a lot of mental and physical toughness and challenges that comes with it. So, in your opinion, with everything you've been through, what do you think has been the toughest mental and/or physical challenge that you've had to deal with through martial arts, and how'd you really get over it?
You wrestled before, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's the weight cut. It's always the weight cut. Jokes aside, the weight cut's actually been it was a little bit of a tougher thing at one point. I actually walk around about 170 to 175 pounds. And I make the cut down to 145. I'm around 5'8", so I'm not the tallest, but my body feels more comfortable, sitting around that range there. And, I'm a big boy.
So you have to drop around 25 to 30 pounds in about a week or so at the end, right?
Yeah. I try to keep it to 15. I try to diet down as much as possible, and with all the running, that's usually not the hardest. Mm-hmm. But, and if it's a really rough camp, it can be 25, 30 pounds.
So to throw you under the bus a little bit, if you haven't done your homework appropriately, did you happen to see any of the podcasts where Jim and I talked about when I did the little weight loss experiment? So I want to see how it compared from what I went through with what you usually do on a basis, since this is something you do more regular.
I didn't get to catch the entire podcast. I did see the post about it, which I was actually going to ask you about today. I wanted to hear what your experience was like, and I wanted just like a quick recap because I have some interesting questions for you.
I mean, definitely, for anyone, Biohacker Nation, who isn't aware of it, as we're talking about, I did a weight loss experiment with a lot of guidance under the mad scientist.
For no reason whatsoever other than to say, hey, I can do it.
I mean, George St. Pierre said he could, who backed out from it, but again, if someone, the best in the world with unlimited resources could, I figured, why the hell can't I? It was atrocious, like, especially the last little bit. But yeah, it was really, look through it. I'd be interested to hear what your opinions and your differences are from it. But the weight cut is incredibly, it's all mental stuff. The physical part, you can keep going, but it's why the heck am I doing this, especially when it's just ego on the line.
Right.
But anything other than the weight cut, I mean, that's a huge one. Anything else that you thought was really tough physically or mentally that you have to go through on a standard basis? You and I have talked a little bit before about, you're an excellent kickboxer, but the first time you got taken down or controlled a little bit, that kind of played with your anxiety a little bit next in the ring. How were you able to get over that a little bit?
Oh man, the two losses that I've suffered in MMA so far have been by the same exact way. Both in the second round, at the exact same time point in the second round. And had I been more prepared, I think I would have been fine. It really threw off my confidence, man. I'm going to be honest with you. And I've always been the one to, I guess, struggle a bit with confidence when it comes to fighting because I've never been, the tallest kid or the strongest, which is fine because fighting one's fight, not necessarily strength or height.
No, speed and technique play a huge part of it.
Yeah, but I did not have the technique. I did not have the camp that I should have had, where I was focused on defensive wrestling, defensive jujitsu, so working off my back a lot and working on how to get up, standing up on the cage, and wall walking enough. I didn't have, the resources or the technique drilled into me that I should have for it. And anytime you don't have that confidence built into you or the tools that you need built into you, it starts messing with your cardio again. So while I'm going through both scenarios in the fight, and I'll lay it down like this for you guys, I'm going through the same nightmares that I went through in my first couple of losses in kickboxing in a different sport where I thought that I was going to, be fine in. I had worked my way up to blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I had been doing some wrestling, but not enough. So I'm here thinking, my cardio's shot. I don't have the technique. I can't think of what to do to get out of the situation. It was just an everlasting nightmare, and it haunted me for weeks and weeks after. Both of them, actually. My fights actually being exactly 1 year apart from each other. Because of this, I've taken a bit more of a different approach to training. I really stand by the saying that drillers make killers. Perfect practice makes perfect. So I'm more Thai, I guess, more like Thailand style Muay Thai fighter in the approach of where I will drill this technique even when I'm completely exhausted with perfect form to make sure that when I can't think in the ring, it's there for me. It's there to have my back. It can just rely on my muscle memory, my neuromuscular memory, to just kick in and say, this is what we have to do. This is how we get ourselves out of this mess.
A big part of combat sports in general is making everything instinctual. If you have to think about it, that's a half a second you had to slow down where, your opponent over across the end of the cage just threw something at you. So,
right.
Obviously you're doing your stuff to go ahead and try to, improve so you can get better with it. But do you have any other little, special biohacking tricks or techniques that you've specifically used Anything, from like unique balance training or bone conditioning or anything that, is worth sharing with everyone else to try to make yourself a little bit better at what it is that you're trying to do?
I punch and kick trees. I'm a karate guy. This is what we do.
Why use an axe when you got a shin?
What'd the tree ever do?
Right.
You're beating up the tree.
It made a funny face at me.
I did not chop down that tree. It made fun of my mom. Yeah.
Right. Really, so all my biohacking tips happen to stem from just the styles of training that I came from, being in Shotokan and Kyokushin, and even Muay Thai now. Conditioning is everything, right? Bone density is everything for when you're checking kicks, when you're throwing kicks and punches. I will do round on top of round. There's actually a challenge going around the internet right now called the Long Swan. It's a Muay Thai fighter, the Long Swan 1000, where at the end of your session you throw 1,000 keeps and 1,000 knees. I've gone a little bit overboard with it. I've been doing this for a little bit longer than the challenge has been out, where I'll throw, shin kicks straight to the bag, no shin guards, nothing. Just clean shin right to the bag, and I'll throw it right to the bottom of the bag, the toughest part of it, to really just build up my shin bones. And the same thing with my punches. Make sure I'm throwing with proper form, just so I can really strengthen and develop my wrists as well as my knuckles.
It's pretty impressive.
You can't see it, but Jim was making a few interesting faces over here for it. All positive.
So what do you do?
Awesome.
What do you do to recover after these intense conditioning workouts? Because we all know the body breaks down a little bit when you continuously go for it day after day after day, multiple times a day. So what are your little tricks of the trade that you like to do that you find work for yourself?
My fascial release, that's definitely a big part of it. Mobility work, just making sure that my body's breaking up all the scar. That I'm breaking up all the scar tissue that my body's developing. Between ice baths and, contrast bathing, for sure. I'm eating a lot for my recovery, though. I'm definitely focusing a lot on what I'm putting into my body. I grew up in a house that was, all pro, that was pro organic food. So, excuse me, I've always had a really, clean diet.
I knew that word was going to come up with you.
I hear that a crap ton of times.
I brought it up, so there it is.
So I have to get you to go ahead and tell more of that. What is you consider a clean diet? Just give us an idea of, since you said you spend a lot of time and effort on it, what kind of stuff do you what is clean to you that you try to eat? And any supplementation that you might do to help out, especially with rehab and recovery?
I like my BCAAs and I like my protein. I don't necessarily rely too much on supplementation nowadays. When I was younger, I did for sure. I was a huge fan of the company Isopure for it. I love big protein, and my friend would always supply me with BCAAs at her job at the gym. So those always helped out. But I don't necessarily follow any particular type of diet. I'm big into greens. I love my vegetables and I love my fruit. I love my homegrown, we have a farm actually back home in Puerto Rico, right? That's a fun fact for anybody that's going to be listening to this. I'm from Puerto Rico. My whole family is.
Fun fact.
And we're a bunch of farmers. So, there we'd I guess kind of kill the chicken, kill the chicken that we raise. That would be, dinner. That'd be our protein for the dinner.
That's organic.
Can't get much more organic than that.
Right. We'd grow special fruit there and everything like that they don't really have here in the States. It wouldn't survive being here in the States. But making sure that we're eating things that, cleanse the liver, keep the blood pressure down, things like that. I use a lot of coconut oil in any of my recipes that I use. I don't know if you guys have heard about the little fad that was going on with apple cider vinegar. But my mom was big into that for a while, so everything she cooked, we'd have rice, beans, chickens, and at some point there was some apple cider vinegar spritz in there somewhere. It had to be somewhere in the salad, somewhere in the rice. Didn't matter. Mom would throw it in there.
There you go, Mom. Keeping you healthy.
Right.
So, does your diet change at all between cutting and when you're not cutting?
So in camp versus out camp?
Other than your consumption, does it change from going more fat dense versus carbohydrate dense, protein dense? I mean, how does your diet pretty much made up when you're in camp cutting?
Well, I guess we'll kind of group this in phases, right? So the first, I try to keep around an 8 to 10 week camp. First 2 weeks of camp, if it's in a 10-week camp, I'm eating pretty regular. My diet has not changed from out of camp.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So the next 4 weeks, I have to start letting go of whatever, body fat I have and everything like that. So my portion size is actually just shrinking a lot. I kind of stick to the whole fist size portion of protein. I have to have rice with every meal because I love rice. Rice is great. It's my source of carbs, my preferred source of carbs. And then I'll have my fats in like avocado and stuff like that because, yeah, avocado's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna argue on that. I love some avocado.
It's great, man. It's great. It's my favorite. Salted avocado is amazing with Himalayan pink salt. Woo!
So in general, your diet doesn't change too much from cutting to not cutting because you already eat rather well. You just kind of start eating less to be able to make more of the weight. Is that right?
Yeah. And then the last couple of, I think the last week of the cut is when it really drastically changes. I'm not necessarily, I'll cut out water the last couple of days as I need it. I'll sip maybe the first 3-4 days of the week on a couple bottles of water down to 1 bottle of water maybe on that Wednesday or Thursday night. And then I'll I'll start eating fruit instead. That way my body's still getting the sugar I need for my brain and I'm getting, at least some form of liquid in there. As I get closer to that weigh-in day on Friday. And then I never try to bloat myself with overeating right after the cut. So it's always never drink a full gallon of water like I've seen a lot of people do. It's take a little bit of salt, put it in your water, and sip it. Sip it as the day goes by. Have some more fruit. Keep making sure you're replenishing your electrolytes. So I'll have water with cucumbers, strawberries, grapes, and blueberries chopped up in it, and I'll eat the fruit as I go along, and then I'll try to get some protein in there. I'll try to get salmon and stuff in there.
Yeah, a big mistake I know a lot of people do is what you already touched on is they try to eat or drink way too much way quickly. When I did, I had this nice little we'll call it concoction all made up, and it was disgusting tasting, but it was all I was dreaming about those last 2 nights was just getting everything refilled back in me from it. So good to know you don't overrush it because that can cause a lot of problems with people. Anything from getting bowel spasms is a huge one, or kidney issues. So a lot of people don't pay attention to the coming back off of the weight cut. But good to sound you mostly have that at least relatively taken care of and thought out.
I'm trying. I'm definitely trying to learn from mistakes that I know I've made and some of the people I look up to have made. I don't know how tuned you've been with GSP, but he's been pretty open to sharing that he developed ulcerative colitis because of some of his eating habits and some of his training habits and some other stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. What you put in your body does actually matter. Believe it or not.
Extremely.
Weird.
But you mentioned about trying to learn from your mistakes, but you have a chance to try to learn from your mistakes coming up soon, right? You have another fight coming up. So what exactly are you looking forward to with this, and what really is your ultimate goal down the road? Because you definitely don't sound like you're quitting this anytime soon.
No, man, I'm all in. I have bought into this sport. This is what I want to do. This is my life. And right around the corner, November 10th, I will be stepping back into the cage at Premier SC at the Sheraton Monarch Place, the hotel in Springfield, Massachusetts. It is a number 1 contender bout. So whoever wins this fight goes on to fight for the vacant 145-pound title, the featherweight title. So I'm looking to step in there, put in an excellent showing, and hopefully back in February. Well, hopefully in February, once she holds her next card, I'll be stepping in and taking the belt.
Wow, that's one heck of an opening you got there.
Yeah, way to be modest and just try to have a good showing. I think they'd want to go in there and tear the guy's head off and
Aim high.
kick him out of the ring.
Well, he's a wrestler, so I mean, I have a little bit of, I have some experience to run while I'm in that cage of the day. So
Absolutely.
we'll see how it goes. I just want a good showing.
Come on.
Oh, come on, you want more than a good showing. Come on, this is nearing the end of the show. Brag a little bit. You want this guy to not realize where his head's at, right?
Well, I kind of want him to run, like running into the cage or asking the ref after the ref's ripped me off of him where he's at.
There we
more
go.
like
Now
it.
we got gold.
That's the idea, right? Like, that's what we want.
So, what is your ultimate goal in the sport? Where would you like to be when the one day that you hang it all up and say, enough is enough, I've had a great run, now it's time to move on and do something else? What legacy would you like to leave upon it?
Would I like to, or that I'm going to? That's the real question here. If it's the one I'm going to, I want to retire. I'm going to retire as the bantamweight and featherweight champion of all the major promotions. So we're talking Rise in Japan, ONE FC, and I think that's Singapore, Bellator, and the UFC. I want all their belts. I want all of them. And after that, I'm going to, when I hang it up, when I leave my gloves in the cage for the last time, I'm going to go on and I'm going to coach. I want to raise the next generation of fighters. I want to pass on my knowledge. I want to give everything that's been given to me back to my friends in my community. I want them to be able to do better than what I have accomplished, to achieve better, to go to greater heights. As well as working as a physical therapist on the side as well. I'm actually currently in school for physical therapy, so hopefully I'll be able to, help some of my fighters as they grow up,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much to be said about gratitude and giving back, and not to do it, obviously, for the return, but it's how much richer of a life that one has in doing so. So, good for you.
Thank you.
A big question here for you. Sky King. Where did that come from?
Oh boy.
Was there actually a story behind this one? Because I had no idea.
Yeah, no one actually... You guys are the first people to have asked me this question in about 4 years. And there's a good reason for that. It's part of the story.
Do tell.
So, when I was 14, I tore my Achilles tendon flipping on stage. It was not a fun time. It is my dominant leg. It is my left leg. I blew it out completely. I slipped doing a double backflip on stage. The stage was wet, and they told me to perform my entire act out in rehearsal. And I was like, okay, fine, I will. They had not cleaned up after the last act, and I just went forward in two. Because of how my parents were raised, though, they thought, it's just a sprain. You'll be fine. You'll be able to walk in a couple of days. Wrap it up. For 2 months, I walked around without the tear being fixed.
Ew.
Huh.
Yeah, not a great time.
Mm-mm.
So the recovery on that wasn't, the easiest, I think, in terms of what happened immediately after. I'd gotten really sick after we finally had the surgery to repair it. And I couldn't do that sport that I was telling you about earlier. I couldn't do tricking for quite some time after. The doctor said I wouldn't be able to walk properly again. The doctor said I wouldn't be able to trick or fight again. And I was like, well, can't have that. And I was like, give me 3 months. During this recovery, give me 3 months, and I will be able to do everything I could before. And so I did. But because it still bothered me, because I still had some tendonitis now from relying on my right leg to compensate for my left not being active, it hurt me way too much to do any jumps or any flips and any tricks. And like you've seen in the gym that I don't come up short on any of the jumps or anything that I do like that.
No, you
it takes a lot of power.
Jumping, spinning, all that little fancy taekwondo BS that I always love to watch.
Yes.
I threw it out there.
Appreciate that. It's that stuff is so much fun. I love it, but it's extremely stressful on the tendon and all your joints. You know, they're gonna only take so much shock. So to get away from that for a while, I moved into dancing. And I started off as a break dancer because it involved much more spinning on my head and back than jumping off my feet. So a couple months into breakdancing in my area, which was, I think, Waterbury at the time, I'd been dancing with a group of friends that were as nerdy as I was. And we were playing a game called Kingdom Hearts at the time. We were playing Birth by Sleep. And my favorite character had been the character Ventus. Ventus being wind, Sora being sky, those two being connected is kind of where we're going with this. My friends had started calling me King Ventus, King of the Wind, because they knew that I was able to flip and do all that stuff when I wasn't in a world of pain. And after a while, after I recovered a bit more, after I was able to do much more in terms of tumbling, tricking, all that, I started calling myself the King of the Sky, which my friend Joey, the same one who called me King Ventus for the first time, was like, nah, Sky King works better. And I was like, oh, okay, Joey, what would you call me that from now on?
I do actually remember the first time you and I sparred, you did a flying jump kick at me. Thankfully, I pivoted, but I still was trying to figure out what the heck it was you just did. So not at all surprised on the story from that one, in the least. So
that's for me.
So, all right, at this point, we're pretty much kind of wrap this up, unless is there anything else that you want to really point out or say out to Biohacker Nation? Because right now, Jim and I are kind of staring at each other thinking we're done, unless there's anything else you want to throw out.
No, he's
a good response.
You put me on the spot. You caught me on the spot. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I like how you guys are spreading, knowledge, and you guys are inviting and creating opportunities for a lot of fellow athletes out there who are really striving to do better and be better, especially on the younger end here. Being only 22 myself, it's really inspiring what you guys are doing for all of us in the athletic community. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It was our pleasure. I'm glad we can do what it is that we do, and hopefully we can keep on doing it. And to the entire Biohacker Nation, Springfield, Massachusetts, right, Omaree? November 10th.
Yes, sir.
Springfield, Massachusetts, November 10th, Premier FC. Watch Omaree wreck some house and earn his title shot.
There we go. You know we're going to be keeping in touch about this one.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get this belt back.
Damn straight.
So, for Biohacker Nation out there, this is Dr. Mike.
Mad Scientist Jim.
And our special guest.
All right, Fernandez. Thank you, guys.
We are out. Thank you, everybody.